creative.
I'm seeing things. No.
I'm seeing an ad.
I'm seeing an ad too. How strange. People will hear us talking about how we see an ad because they're like whatever 30 seconds behind us or whatever. Anyway, hello everyone. Oh look, I can skip ads now. Let's do that. Hello everyone. I'm me. You guys know me, Noelle from Costuming Drama. This is Constance. I don't actually know if she's on the side.
I don't know where you're pointing, if it's at me or not.
I'm pointing to you on my screen. I'm learning all kinds of new stuff. And then I can watch the live happening down here and this computer down here and see if I'm pointing the wrong direction. Yes, they all do see us talking about, can I push the button? Is it gonna go? We're so professional. Hi, people. Everyone is talking to us. They're like, hello from North Wales, hello from France. Wow, the Europeans are here. Hi from Chicago. It's Constance. Oh, I was pointing the right direction. Great.
You are. Oh, marvelous.
Yeah. I'm going to turn my volume up. How are you doing today, Constance?
I'm all right. We've already spoken today, but that was at the other end of your day. So this is the wrong way round for us, really, isn't it? Because
yeah. Constance and I talk in the middle of my night and the beginning of her morning, like almost every day.
Yeah. And normally I've turned into a pumpkin right now, as far as your day is concerned. Normally I might say good night and that'd be it.
Yeah. And then I leave you messages while you sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. So just so everyone knows, we don't have an agenda today. We're just shooting the breeze and seeing how live stream goes before we have to deal with COVID next weekend. And I have 7 lives. So that means that I need to practice. So here we are. I do have a whole bunch of questions that I asked online and Constance asked online so that we can do a speed round of fun questions. And I think we had an agenda already, right? We were going to talk about our dresses. And we're going to talk about our COVID schedule.
Yes.
What do you got coming for COVID?
Well, compared to your 7 lives, I feel I've got off very lightly here. So I am doing a live Q&A on Nikki Liam's channel. And that's a Q&A with Nikki. And it's got Anne from Silk and Stitches and Bernadette and Cynthia of Red Threaded. And we are doing a Q&A for costumes for stage and screen and working in wardrobe. And we've all got quite different experiences. So some of us are makers, some of us have worked in the sort of production side. And like Cynthia's got her own workroom and Nikki works in ballet and Anne's done musicals. I've done opera and film. So it's a really good mix of, it's not every aspect of costuming for performance, but it's a huge part of what makes costume for performance. And we've all done different bits and no one ever does just one thing. You've always got, oh, I'd also do this bit on the side, or I've also doubled as this, or so that'll be really good. We're going to talk about the different aspects in our own industries and our own specialisms, the different aspects in like working in America, working in Europe, working in the UK, because again, it's all different. We use different terminology, different job titles for exactly the same job. Like, oh, what do you call it where you are? Oh, we call it this, but that means this. So that should be
unions are really different between the countries too. Like really.
I've actually learned quite a lot about my union in the last 2 days because I listened to a podcast, because there's a really good podcast called Behind the Seams, which is done by Angels, which is a huge costume house in London that do most film and TV. You'll have costumes from Angels in it. You'll recognize costumes from Angels. They have their own workrooms. They have a massive store, and they've started doing a podcast about all the work that they do behind the seams because COVID shut everyone down, so suddenly people had a lot of time. So 2 of the supervisors, a supervisor and assistant designer, both of whom I've worked for, both called Charlotte, are the head of the unions in the UK for backstage, and they were talking about their role as well as what they do in film, but also what they do for the union. So I've learned a lot in the last 2 days that I didn't know previously, because I was in a union when I worked in theatre, but not now I work in film. So I need to sort that out.
The US is really heavily unionized, and in California, in the movie industry, the whole movie is either a union or it's not.
Yeah, I didn't go to it, but Gemma, who I was sharing a room with at Costume College last year, she went to a talk about how it worked, and she came back from that talk and she was like, right, come on, we're moving to LA.
I cannot suggest that to stay in England. It's a much better place.
No, I'm staying here. I'm fine.
I mean, I love LA and that's where I'm from, but like, I'd rather be in London.
That's my live, and then I've got a video coming out on Sunday, which is, I've got to check the times. So it's 10 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. British Summer Time, and I've labelled it, and I named it, and I labelled this, and I typed this out: 16th century hand sewing insertion lace. But it's actually to make a 16th century partlet as well. It's not just it's actually a whole garment constructed with insertion lace.
And that's that partlet you were showing me yesterday.
That's the partlet, yeah.
You guys are all gonna really like that one. It's beautiful.
It's one of my favorite ways of sewing lace into a garment. It's all by hand, and I just
of course
enjoy it. Yeah.
I've never tried insertion lace because
I suspect you'd like it.
You don't?
No, you can do it by hand and machine. I mean, I've done it all by hand, but it's inspired by a garment I made a very long time ago. And that was copying from another maker who was he was an amazing maker. He did film and TV and all sorts of things. And he did it all by hand because that's how we were told to do it for the job, because it was for the Globe. And he said, oh, well, I could have done it by machine and created exactly the same effect. And I was like, really? He said, oh, yeah, you could definitely have done that. So he didn't, because it was a job to do by hand, but he was sort of one of those people that could really, turn his hand to absolutely anything.
I like lace, and I like it on other people. I think it looks weird when it's on me, probably because it's not a Lady Gaga t-shirt. And I'm like, I'm not a frilly person, but I kind of want to try it. I think it'd be fun. I actually want to do it on a petticoat at some point. I'm really concerned though about so there's the petticoat and then the lace and then more petticoat. And if that lace is enough, the bottom half of that petticoat will just right off, or if you step on it, or things happen. And especially things happen to me because I frequently am in a giant bustle dress and forget that I'm in a bustle dress and try to behave completely normally, which is really dumb, but it's who I am.
I think this is also the whole thing of, which is what I want to improve with how I dress and what I do, in that I could wear anything and it become normal, but it does mean adapting your clothes so that they are normal. And yes, I mean, I still make everything too long. I mean,
me too.
Far too long. And and if we're going to be practical about it, we need to be shorter. And I think that's what we often don't realise, that petticoats can be that much shorter to make life easier, but also you still want them to do the job that you want them to do, don't you? And it's finding that balance.
Following you up subway stairs in London is fun because there's this train of petticoats coming behind you.
I was going to say,
I don't know how you don't fall down. I would fall down.
This skirt, where is it? This skirt that is too long, and because the side seams are on the bias, has dropped. Has got a massive oil stain on the hem somewhere, which I think probably is escalators in London.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's where I know it needs too long. It needs to be re-leveled completely.
Yeah, well, someday I'll learn how to walk like a girl, but stairs in long skirts baffle me. Every time I'm in a bustle dress and people come up to stairs, I just stop and look at them and go
I remember the Tudor ladies at Kentwell who are wearing farthingales, sort of, if they're going out for a little perambulation round the grounds after it's rained, going, I need an escort, not because I'm a woman and I can't walk on my own, but I need someone to steer me round the puddles because I can't see them round the farthingale perimeter.
Yeah. People are like, I've gotten to the point that anything longer than my knees, or I hold anything longer than my knees up when I'm going upstairs. Yeah, usually holding 15 other things because I forget that I'm wearing different clothes because I'm not really conscious of my body at a given moment, I think is what I'm getting at, because I just forget all the time. So yeah, I need to learn how to behave like a lady. It's probably not going to happen.
You're doing better than me. You found what people are talking. I'm looking and going, I don't know where we are.
You'd have to be actually live. You got it?
So we've got sidetracked there from petticoats to lace. So, but that's all I've got for COVID, because we've had how many months of nothing going on, and I've suddenly got everything all at once because I'm making something for somebody, and that's that sort of very, very tight deadline. COVID's happening, and then I'm going back to work, and that all happens in the same week. So having had no deadlines.
When it rains, it pours. You had like 4 months, nothing, and then all of it.
So do you want
as
to
soon as soon as I said something about the date, you were like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to work that week for sure. Like you predicted this.
Yeah.
I'm not organized like you are, apparently, even though
I've only got 2 as well. I've only got 2.
I just have all my screenshots of my things. What am I doing? Okay, so on Thursday night at 5:30 Pacific, I'm doing a live with Marita, and we're just gonna talk about UFOs and basically like hang out and take questions and that kind of stuff. Like Marika's awesome, but we wanted to like slow roll into COVID because it's a lot. Next day I'm making 18th century myths with Jess, and I'm trying to find that thing. That's at 1 o'clock. Jess is from Penny River Costumes, and she's going to live demo while I'm talking to her, making a whole 18th century myth. Like she can make one in 2 hours. So that weird thumb insertion thing and how to fit it and all that stuff, she's gonna make them. And then she has kits on her website and a pattern and all kinds of stuff that you can get if you want to, or you can just watch it and learn it and then make it yourself. That night, I have a friend called Nami, whose handle is Necronomic Cosplay, which I think is just the coolest thing. Like Necronomicon, kind of. And that's at 5. And we're going to talk about making your very first costume, both cosplay and historical, and like the organization of that, and like how to, I'm going to like to project manage or something. And I probably should just do a standalone video on how to project manage your projects and like really dive into it, but this will suffice for right now. Yeah. The next day I have a live panel with Bernadette and Morgan and Abby. We're going to talk about tech in YouTube. So anyone who wants to be a costuber.
I should be writing copious notes for that one.
And then that evening, I'm going to talk to Abby and Kenna. Kenna is Kenna Sews on Instagram, and they're both experts, but actual experts because they have degrees in it in like historical garments and stuff. And we're going to talk about like the myth of the 18-inch waist, which isn't a thing apparently. So they're going to show you all kinds of different size inclusive extant garments so that everyone can stop thinking that everything has to be 18 inches, because that is not the case. And then the next day I have another panel with Bernadette, Morgan, Abby, and me, and we're going to talk about 2 things, weirdly. We're going to talk about the like artistic aspect of YouTube, and then also like the admin side. Like we're going to talk about money, and we're going to talk about social media management, and we're going to talk about mental health management and all that kind of stuff. So
excellent.
That should be fun. And then that night at 4 Pacific, I have what is probably going to be the hardest, but also my most looked forward to panel, which is inclusion in the costuming community. And let me just name the people who are going to be in here. Anne Marie from Silk and Stitches, who you know. Ayana from the Vintage Guidebook, Christine from Sewstein, Carla from Tiny Angry Crafts, Nami from Nekanose, Gigi from La Belladonna History and Reenactors of Color, and then Erica from Erica a la Mode. So cosplayers, historical costumers, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just hosting the panel, but they're going to talk about inclusion in costuming. So
brilliant.
All the race stuff we've been talking about is going to come up. And I'm sure it's going to be hard and good work to do and stuff. And very informative and fun. And these ladies are geniuses. They're all really brilliant. We had a run through and I was just like, I love you guys. So I'm really
brilliant. And to have this platform to do that now is, is the most immediate thing we can do. That's brilliant.
Right.
We've had the time to read, we've had the time to think, we've had the time to talk. Now the time to listen to people who have actually been through it.
Yeah. I also have a video that I'm going to upload for a friend of mine who does not have a costuming channel. Her name is Denise Nicole, and she is time.travel.is.possible on Instagram. And she is awesome. She's a historical interpreter. She
So
does that living history. Yeah. And she's awesome. So she's doing a summer to winter get ready with me from, I think, 1869. And she's giving me her video. So I'm going to plop the intro on the video saying, hi, you're not going to see me, you're going to see her. And then hand it over to her. So yeah, should be fun.
Oh, fantastic.
I have a lot going on. I didn't realize it was actually 8. It's not 7.
So is this more than you would ever normally do for costume college? Because normally you're just like, I'm going to make me a vlog. I'm going to go to the classes I want to go to.
Well, yes and no. So I don't teach at costume college. That's not my jam. I don't feel informed enough. That's why I got other people to come on and teach on my channel. But I will talk about stuff. I at costume college try, as you can tell from my blog, to do all of the things, like every single thing. So I go to classes like back all day usually. And I go to all the events and I do all the things. So yes and no. I think I'll actually have an easier time at CocoVid because I have my 2 lives each day and then I can chill if I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Really
I used to go and hide in my room and either watch old episodes of Have I Got News for You on YouTube or listen to Queen as if I had to go take a moment away from costume college. So you can do that in your own home as well, things like that.
Yeah. I feel like we should room together at costume college. I think we'd have a good time.
Because I'd be getting up and you'd be going, oh, maybe it would work. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just swap. Actually, at costume college, like I stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning uploading vlogs and then get back up and I'm in class again by 9.
Okay. So from what I remember of costume college, the first year I went, I flew in, so the other years I've been in America for almost a week beforehand, so I've got the time thing sorted out. But my very first year when I did it on my own, I flew in and I think I was awake for 5 days. I just didn't sleep at all. So that was the whole of my first costume college. It's like, let's not happen.
Yeah, that could totally happen. That's what happens when I go to England, except when I go to England, I always book theater performances, which is dumb, especially like that first couple days, because it's like 8 o'clock and I'm trying to pass out in a very warm theater. Yeah. Like I'm sitting there watching Ian McKellen or somebody.
I was going to say, you book really good things when you go, and you've slept through some fabulous stuff, have you?
I fell, what is that? St. Martin of the Field? Is that the one that's in...
that's right off Trafalgar Square, yeah.
Yeah, Trafalgar Square. Yeah, so I went to a concert there of like Mozart or Beethoven, and I am in the second pew just passed out. And Chris is just like, it's okay, sweetie. But it was so calming and like the music was so beautiful and I was just like, oh, this is so relaxing.
And I'm in the wrong time zone.
Wrong time zone. Yeah. Anyway. All right, let's talk about bath dresses. So for those of you who don't know, a lot of us were supposed to go to the Victorian Ball in Bath in May, hosted by Isabella Prior. And obviously that didn't happen because of COVID. I keep trying to call it COVID. So that didn't happen. So that sucks. But it's supposed to happen next year. So we're all making ball gowns, and it's been a source of much drama for everybody. like fun drama, good drama, but
I think it's been interesting because we all would have done it if it was happening. We all would have gone there. But now we've all had time to think, well, what do I really want? Do I want this? Do I want to start again? It's been interesting. I'm now thinking, do I need a cape? It's going to be May if we go. No, yes. I probably don't need a cape, but I've got the time.
No, you need a cape for the photos, so we can do flourishy things, and then you just put the cape in the cloakroom. You got to have something to check in.
Of course.
Of course. So the ball is 1890s, and I am scooting in at 1889, 1890, like right down the line, because I want a bustle dress. I always want a bustle dress, and I can pop on a bustle if I do that very, very crossover period. But I will look slightly differently. Morgan and I had the idea to do Crowley and Aziraphale.
I know. I thought about that, but I couldn't decide whether I could be Crowley or Aziraphale. So I'm glad you've done it instead. I mean, I think I'd have to be Aziraphale. I don't think I'm a Crowley, but
basically I can't do anything unless it has a theme. Like if you just give me an open-ended year and say go, I'm like, eh. So I will sneak in a theme no matter, like I'm always cosplaying, but historically.
Yeah.
So Christine from Sosteen is my angel, and she silk embroidered me these giant snakes that are Crowleys, like snake tattoo. She made me those, and I'm gonna put them on my dress, but they're gonna be black on black. So like you only will notice them if you notice them. So like you won't know that I'm cosplaying him unless you know that I'm cosplaying him.
Are you gonna get some little tiny black smoked glasses?
Yeah, I have some like teeny tiny ones that are like historical.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm ready.
And you've got your fabric and everything for that, haven't you? And you're all...
I went to the fabric district and I bought 25 yards of black silk taffeta.
Makes my shopping sound quite reasonable now you say that, but that's...
No, because that was only like $13 a yard. And I just bought the whole bolt because it's really hard to actually find black silk taffeta for like a reasonable price. So I just bought it. I'm like checking the comments now.
Okay.
Am I familiar with Blackadder? I indeed am.
It's also, you need to have the snake on his arm that he has on his arm, which is based on Elizabeth I has it, and then you see it, and she obviously bequeathed it to someone in her court. I think you see Arbella Stewart with them as well.
I can't. I have Hogwarts.
But you, I know, and you're going for it's that sort of sleeve, isn't it? It's got the little poofy. Yeah.
I mean, people are gonna. I mean, I'll have gloves on for this one, but people will know that I have tattoo. I'm just like, I'm also not taking out like my 45 earrings, so everyone can get over it. Yeah. Okay, so should we do speed round on our questions that we got asked?
Why not?
Okay, let me pull that up. I have the questions from you, so let's do those first, and then I will have to look up mine while you answer things. Oh, actually I have both of them because I screenshotted mine for you, yeah. Okay, we're gonna try to do these quickly.
Okay.
How do you start researching for an outfit?
Books. Books and post-it notes, and just going through putting a post-it note on every page of what I like. And then I've got a big pile of books. How about you?
That assumes I research for an outfit. Mostly what happens is I have an image in my head, and then I go to the pattern company, usually, let's all be honest, Truly Victorian, and I see what patterns are available, but I own their catalog. So then I go, cool, I own that, and I go downstairs and get it. That's like literally it. If it's something else, like a different time period, or like a different, like sometimes I do like normal cosplays, like I did Space Girl Sailor Moon or Lolita dress or something like that. I mostly go to the internet and start looking at pictures and build the image in my head, and then I just find a way to make that silhouette happen, because the silhouette's really the only thing that matters, right? Yeah. So you don't always have to build it the way that they built it, or if it's cosplay, you don't build it anyway. You can, if you get the silhouette, you win. So yeah. Okay, do you have a dream project you are working toward, aren't quite ready to tackle?
So that's, I'm sorry, I missed the end of that. So a dream project that you're not yet ready to tackle?
Yeah.
I'd probably say my ball gown is on that. I mean, obviously.
That's my night project.
Oh, actually, I've got a picture. This is me. I've got some postcards. I would love to do this, and you're going to recognize this. You're going to like it if it shows up on a postcard.
Oh, that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Go up a little bit. Yeah.
So that's the Spencer that belongs to the Chertsey collection that was heavily influenced the Emma Spencer, but this is the real thing, and it's so much more OTT than hers.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the funny thing is that my answer to that question is like the entire wardrobe set from Emma.
Everything from Emma.
Yeah, like literally I will watch that movie like once a week, and I will start walking up to my television, taking pictures like on pause and sending them to Constance people. Like, be like, look at this collar, look at this tiny detail. I'm sure you're totally tired of me doing that. I'm watching it again. Okay, if you could bring one article of clothing back into fashion, what would it be and why?
The ruff.
The ruff.
Interesting. I'm obsessed with them. They've got to come back somehow. They're just amazing, and you know, I don't get enough chance to practice making them look amazing. So if they were fashionable, I could make them for everyone. What about you?
I mean, the bustle
dress.
Since I want to do it like modern style, so I like do the bustle. Like, yeah. The 80s tried to bring back the bustle a little bit, but they didn't do it right. So the reason why is because bustle dresses will make anyone, and I mean anyone, look banging. Like they do things to people's shapes that are amazing. Like, and it's a really good time to not be a very thin person in the bustle area, because the queen was not a very thin person. So all the fashion went towards catering to that body silhouette.
And there are some, I know we always end up going back to Worth, but there are some amazing Worth dresses of that era, and they are for ladies of all sizes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because it was the rich ladies going, I want the best, make me the best. And yeah, very good choice, but it's still roughs for me.
Everyday things that in a pinch can work as sewing tools. Funny costuming stories. Okay, let's do everyday things that can in a pinch work as sewing tools.
Do you have one? I'm not sure.
Yeah, freezer paper.
Okay, yeah.
Freezer paper for sure. Because I learned how to do pleating from Lynn McMaster's with freezer paper, and I'm like, you're a genius. Just like I have to do a video on that. I should have done it for Coco Vid, but I didn't.
I suppose. I mean, they're widely available and aimed at seamstresses and sewers now. But these pens, which came from Muji, which is a Japanese-inspired shop, these were the first of the steam-off pens, friction pens that we found. And obviously now there's loads of them, so that would be my one. And I still quite like these ones, even though everyone else says the other ones are better. And then
also
I did
a compass.
A compass.
Yeah. Like to draw circles and arcs and stuff. Like a compass is your friend, yo.
Oh, you're much more practical than me. I was going to say this is probably my favorite tool.
Oh yeah.
Which is that's the awl that I use for all of my eyelets. But Alex made this for me at Kentwell on the Forge when I said I could really do with something to make some holes for eyelets. He's like, oh, I can do that, and it's brilliant, and it has loads of other uses. I mean, probably offensive weapon being one of them, but yeah, I found it quite useful where you got to, I don't know, it's had more than one use, but it is still the best thing for making eyelet holes with as well. So
that's awesome.
Probably my favourite tool of all times, actually.
And it protects your maidenhead.
I don't know. I have to be careful it's not in my hand luggage when I fly, because I don't know how to live it. It's called Pokey Pete as well for some reason. Got called that in a work. It's called Pokey Pete. And that's what people come up to me and go, can I borrow Pete? And I'm like, oh yeah, there you are. There he is.
That's awesome. Okay, favorite materials? We're going to have the same answers.
Well, mine's going to be linen. It's linen, wool, silk. Yeah. Is that your answer?
No, mine's specific. Silk taffeta. Like I will make literally anything out of silk taffeta. If I could have underwear that was silk taffeta, I would do it. And I would go shh, 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 as I walked. It would be fun.
You see, that's why mine's linen. I do have underwear made out of linen. So.
Yeah. Linen's a close second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although the only reason it's not the first is because it's also squidgy. Like it moves around a lot. And there's a lot of times that I'm like, with linen, especially if you're not hand sewing. Like on the machine, linen is a little bit harder because it tries to move around more. You got to pin the living GBDs and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any UFOs?
Oh God, where do you want to start? There's a whole bag down there, which it's called mending technically, but yeah, there's half finished garments in there as well. Yes, lots of them are mostly just things I've cut out for myself, like my clothing. So more of these blouses as a skirt.
I love those blouses. I want those blouses because that's like a fancy t-shirt.
Yeah, it's a raglan all-in-one.
Yeah, like that could be me being fancy.
Yeah, definitely.
Someday you will make that video and I will make the shirt.
I will. This was one of the ones that was meant to be for that video. I made 2 thinking, oh, I'll film it and make a video, and it didn't go very well. So I got 2 extra blouses out of it, and then I cut 2 more out, but I've yet to film that.
Feel free to cut 2 out in extra large. That'd be fine too.
I have yet to try sizing it up. That's what's got me stalled. I can make them in my size. I need to work out the pattern.
Okay,
so that everyone can have raglan 1910 to 1920 blouses.
Yeah, I would wear that blouse all the time. That looks so comfortable and also better than a Lady Gaga t-shirt. I have exactly 2 UFOs. I have one that's been on my board forever. I have a giant robe a la Francais that is massive. It's like one of the first things I ever made, and it is as wide as me spreading my arms out. Like, it's massive because I was like, go big or go home, yo. It's like at least 10 yards of silk. It's crazy. Okay. And all I need to do is trim it. That's it. It's already made. And the other thing that I don't have on my board, but I found the other day, is I have one of those like 18th century Muffet.
Oh, so I missed that. So it was 18th century Miss Muffet cap, did you say?
You know, like not a cap, but like it's a hat that has like a big poof on top.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called. I made it in costume college and I didn't finish it. And then I stuck it somewhere and I just found it. And I was like, oh, I have another UFO I didn't even know about. And like literally all I have to do is stitch on the like binding around the edge and then decorate it and it's done.
Yeah.
Those are my UFOs. I only have the 2. I have a whiteboard for people who don't know. And it has old business, now playing, and new business. And new business is all my projects that I want to work on. Old business is all my UFOs, and nothing is like the stuff I want to work on right now. And every time that I film a new video or I want to start something new, I need to do a UFO first.
Right.
So that they get done. So I don't have them anymore because that is the kind of absolute nerd that I am.
I have things in my to mend pile that I have forgotten existed. My mother, because they're her things to mend, she's probably forgotten they existed, and my partner's probably forgotten they existed because it's been at the bottom of my mending pile, which I count as my UFOs.
It'll be like a Christmas present when you give it back to them.
It's wonderful when I get to the bottom of it and go, oh, I'd forgotten any of us owned this. Let's fix it, and out it comes. Yeah.
You know, you just had 4 months. You could have. Never mind.
I did a lot in that 4 months.
You did. You cranked out so much stuff. Like
I
way
did
more
not get to the bottom of the mending pile. No.
This question is really sweet. They say, "How are you? Is there anything you feel like you need to talk about?"
Oh.
How are you, Constance?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be talking to you. Is there anything you want to talk about?
No, I think I've overshared with you recently, to be honest. So
yeah, you did. I would like to talk about candy floss grapes. Do you have these?
No.
So there are these things, we call them cotton candy grapes, and they're called candy floss grapes, but I've only seen people in Brighton talk about them. So they are grapes where the first grape or 2, you pop it in your mouth and it literally tastes like cotton candy. If you keep eating them, they taste like grapes again. If you eat them like the next day, they taste like grapes. But if you wait like a week and eat another one, it will taste like cotton candy again. I'm not kidding.
Genetically engineered? They don't sound normal.
They're cool. Like I had them the other day and I was like, oh my God, these are amazing. I was super into that.
Should we tell people about the ridiculous things I do, like go to the post office and what I come home with? Because this is not normal, isn't it?
Yeah, tell them about your post office. The post office is an amazing place.
So I've been selling stuff and rehoming unwanted fabric, buttons, books, all sorts of things. And I go to the local post office to send them away. And it's just a little village shop next to a little village tea room, which has been obviously shut for months. But the village shop is still the centre of a little village. So there's people that go in there every day and they get their newspaper. They obviously had shortages when no one had anything for a couple of weeks. And I just go in there and I just buy whatever I feel like buying. And it's always something weird. So I came home with some really fancy honey. They also, now that it's the time of year where everyone's growing vegetables, they also have a charity box that anyone that's got an excess of vegetables that they've grown in their garden, they just leave on the table outside the post office with the charity box, and they just say, please take and leave a donation. So I came home with a massive green pumpkin the other day. Well, it looks like the cross between a pumpkin and a courgette.
That was a pretty piece of fruit, whatever that is. Someone says you can get the candy floss grapes in an M&S.
Ah, right. I haven't been in M&S for 4 months, but we can see what we can do. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. And that's where the caramel sauce that I sent you came from, because I was like, I know somebody who would like that. So it seems to sell gourmet jams, honey, sauces, and then really boring basic things that, you know, old-fashioned shops sell. It's my ideal.
And also postage.
And it's where I send all and the lady in there is a couple that run it, and I go in there and she's like, where are you sending it to today? And I'm like, California, Idaho, Norway, Hong Kong, and Germany. She's like, oh, all right then. And we go through this big pile of stuff.
That's awesome. People are talking about candy floss grapes now in the okay, so I went to your list. I still have more on mine, but can you talk about working for TV?
I feel I'm going to have to leave some of that for when I do a panel.
Yep.
But there was one question that was on the list that I thought I could probably answer easier, if that's all right. So it was someone asked, what's the difference between theatre and TV? Yeah. And I thought that would be a really good one. Number one, they asked about designing, and I thought I better point out I am not a designer, I'm a maker. But obviously I've worked with designers that work for theatre, TV and film. And
tell me what that means, a maker means.
Oh yeah, of course.
People don't really know that here.
Again, we're going to properly cover this in the Q&A next Saturday. But a workroom is built up of a team of people. So you have a designer and assistant designer who oversee the overall look of the costumes for a production, whether that's theatre or film or TV. And then they have a workroom. If it's a theatre, the theatre has a workroom. And then within that, you have people who are the cutters, who they work with the designer and they cut the patterns and then they cut the fabric. And then the work's handed out to seamstresses and makers. And I am a maker on that scale. And you have, you know, senior makers, medium makers, junior makers in most environments.
So you physically make the garments from
somebody else's pattern, yeah. And it usually comes to me as a pattern and a garment cut out with a design or not, depending on the situation.
And seamstresses do alterations. Is that the difference?
Well, this is where it gets confusing. Everywhere has different names for it. And I found this quite interesting the other day when I was watching a TV program that is made in Hungary, where a lot of stuff's made in Hungary and Prague, so Hungary and the Czech Republic now. And so sometimes an English crew or American crew will go out there and they will be costume makers and they will be credited as costume makers. And then they employ seamstresses while they're out there because they are people that happen to be able to sew and work in that industry. Whereas in the UK, everyone tends to be labelled a costume maker if that's what they're trained in or they're working as. But it's such a bit of string. It's
Nikki's yelling at you.
What's Nikki yelling at me?
She's saying don't spoil too much.
I'm not. This is not. Okay, so I've gone too far on that. What I was going to talk about was the difference between designing for film and designing for theatre. So going back to theatre, so once upon a time when you designed for theatre, think about how everyone looked at the stage from a great distance, and the costumes, like going back to what you were saying about silhouette, the costumes had to look right from the stage to the person sitting in the front row to the person sitting at the back. And once upon a time, that's how everything was designed. And then when you design for film and TV, you have to think about the fact that what you're mostly going to see is here. So really what's going on down there, you might never see that. You might only see this bit. So
this is why in Little Women there are Ugg boots.
Is there Ugg boots, or was that a production shot where they're rehearsing though and she's got Ugg boots on? I think it's a film shot. So where I was going with this now, as as lots of people will have seen in lockdown, lots and lots of theatres live streamed filmed performances. And this was happening when I was working at Glyndebourne Opera House, is that designers were having to think about how stuff looked on stage to the audience watching it on stage, but also they were filming in HD, the productions, and streaming them live. And suddenly it mattered just as much what you're seeing here as to what you're seeing at a stage. And it's really changed the sort of fabrics that designers buy, because once upon a time they would have looked at a pattern that encompassed the whole design. Like if you were buying a damask, you'd go for a really big bold pattern, because at a distance it would look it would look sort of to scale. But then if you've got it up this close in a close-up, that's going to look too big, and you find they're now picking fabric. It's been really interesting seeing the sort of change in how so that's been my observation, and now we have to think about that. But then, you know, the other thing is, I say everything's filmed in the dark anyway, so you can't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so before Nikki shouts at me anymore, I'm going to shut up on that one.
Yeah, I'm scared. She'll come over from, actually do it, because I want her to come over from Amsterdam. Actually, I don't, because we are a horrible COVID infested, horrible place. So don't come here, Nikki. Don't. You can at me if you want.
I've thought of another example that ties in with that, and it relates to Glyndebourne. So when I was working there was an opera that had been going on for, I think, at least 15 years, called Onegin, and it had been made. So it was made 15 years ago, and it got revived every couple of years, and they perform it again, and it went on tour. So you got to see it a lot, and so they'd occasionally have to remake gowns completely for the principals, or they just zhuzh up the ones for the chorus. It was really interesting, but that was the real. Sorry,
Glyndebourne is a theater production company.
It's an opera production company.
This entire time that you and I have known each other, I have thought it's a reenactment camp.
No, that's Kentwell.
This changes like the entirety of every conversation we've ever had.
Okay. I mean, in some ways they were very similar. They're large 16th century houses owned by eccentric people. In that respect, okay. They're exactly the same.
Yeah, okay.
But so what I was going to say was we did a year where we did Onegin as a production, and it was beautiful. It was after Jean Honeysetter died. She used to be the head of costume at Glyndebourne. It was after she died, but it was still made in the way that her books are written and the way her costumes are made. And it was going, you know, nearly 20 years later, those costumes were still going. And yet we also did a production that year called Hippolyte, which was a really wacky off the wall production, and the costumes and the fabrics picked for that were all about, you know, seeing it on film, how would it look in close up, how would it look in detail, and they weren't the same. And it was just really interesting comparing those two styles of costumes like 15 years apart. They were completely different style of making.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting better. It's like we were awesome, and then we started to suck in like when people stopped being makers, and now we're getting better again.
But I would say you somehow need the in between the two, because what do I think that? Because I don't think the costumes that were made for Hippolyte, which was the modern one, were going to last in the way the Onegin ones were. So the Onegin ones were definitely built to last, and they really did. But maybe there wasn't some of the finesse that we'd want up close.
Yeah.
But I know that Hippolyte won't be there 20 years on. Those costumes won't survive. But they looked amazing for that year that they were there. So it's a really interesting balance. But now I don't want to say anymore.
I often sit there and think of people like if we had like a Pompeii level thing happen right now, if my house just got buried right now, people think about the clothes of mine that they found, given this giant costume wardrobe, right? They'd obviously find a drawer full of t-shirts and a closet full of hoodies, but then they would find like all these crazy costumes. I wonder if they would, like, you know, in 1,000 years be like, what was this person even doing?
I'm going to tell you something that does relate to the reenactment, not theatre. So this was at Kentwell, which is the 16th century reenactment group that I belonged to for years. I haven't taken part for quite a while, but I still feel it's part of my life because all my friends come from and why I make costumes. They did a Second World War event. Even though it's a Tudor manor house, they did an event in 1995 to celebrate the end of the Second World War because it was the 50th anniversary. And it was a massive event for them. They had loads of people come there. And while we were there, someone ran over a Second World War tin helmet that a soldier would have worn with a tanked track. And
it was fine?
No, it was completely squashed.
Okay.
So they threw it in the moat to confuse future archaeologists because it was a 1940s helmet squashed by a 1940s vehicle, but it was squashed in 1995. And they just thought if someone finds that, you won't really know, but it's to confuse the future archaeologists.
When I was young, I used to bury time capsules, and I would bury confusing items, like deliberately to try and fool people. Cat of Cat's Costumery is aggressively Googling Kentwell. All right, I think we should talk about this controversial question that we had a discussion about last night.
This morning, you mean?
Yeah, last night for me. Simplicity costume patterns, Y or N? And yeah, okay.
All right, so I straight away said yes, because one of the first patterns I really remember following was a Simplicity fancy dress 1940s swing dress pattern, and I think I was about 14 or 15, and my grandma helped me make it.
What year was the pattern?
The pattern was a modern pattern. I thought about this. It was not a vintage pattern. It was a modern one in the style of.
Okay, and this was in the 90s then?
Yeah, probably was very late 90s, or maybe 2000.
Okay.
And I thought, it made me a dress. It got me what I wanted. I did go and have a look to see if I had any pictures of it, and I did not have any I wanted to share. So
can you share?
So I would say if a Simplicity pattern gets you sewing, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, okay. What did you think about the pattern itself? You thought it was good and it fit well?
I did, yeah. It didn't fit that well now I think about it, but that may have just been me and age and size. Yeah. Okay,
so my answer is complex also, because I would agree that if it gets you sewing, do the thing. Just do it. I don't care. What I would say is that I actually find them garbage. And I find them garbage because as a person of a certain amount of size, I find that they add like 3 inches of ease to every single thing. Like that thing is not going to fit the way it's supposed to. If you're making a wizard robe, cool. If you're making a bustle dress, no, go to Truly Victorian and get a thing that fits, right? Like the pattern is the same price. Like just buy the actual good pattern. And also the instructions are going to be, frankly, a lot better than Truly Victorian patterns as far as I'm concerned. But if you're making like, a space uniform, okay, cool, yeah, do that. But just know that it's going to have a lot of ease, and they kind of suck. So Simplicity and McCall's are the same pattern company. And I feel really bad about saying this because our friend Angela has patterns with McCall's. Although I don't know what they do to patterns. I actually haven't tried her patterns. I own one of them. So I have an 18th century dress that she did that I bought because I was like, oh, look, Angela. And I came home and I'm like, I introduced Angela to my husband by the pattern. Like, this is my friend Angela. This is the chick I'm talking about all the time. Angela, by the way, is a riot. Like, that girl is funny. Yeah, so I'm not really about the Simplicity pattern. I wouldn't do it unless it's the thing that's going to get you over the hump, or you're making something like if you're doing historical costuming and you don't care and you know enough how to take ease out once you make the thing. Yeah, sure.
I think but you're not going to get this joke because it's a very English one. It's like the laminated Book of Dreams, which is the joke about the Argos catalogue. But I do think I remember going and looking at like the Halloween fancy dress costumes and loving that, even though at the time my ideas were bigger and more historical. Even then, I did like the fact that it was all there in front of you. But no, I must admit, I haven't used one for a long time.
I love Halloween, so like I'm excited that they make those patterns. Like, I think they're good for the world. Yeah, I just personally wouldn't use them because I know better.
I mean, if you want a pattern that I mean, it only works for the vintage, the sort of very narrow vintage feel that they've picked, but the vintage Vogue ones are really good because they don't put any ease in that. It's exactly as they were in the period. But, that's a very limited range. So if they happen to be one that you want, fantastic.
There are costume patterns from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, though, also Simplicity. You can buy, like, if you're going to buy Simplicity patterns, buy the old ones if you can. You can get your hands on antique.
Don't buy the reprint, buy the old one. Yeah, because they've fiddled around with the ease, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah, anything from like, I would say the 80s on. Yeah. I'm a snob. Let me just own that right now. Like, I am a snob about it. If I have to do too many alterations to a pattern, I'm like, damn, this could be better. Okay, what are you missing the most about Coco?
I think it's actually seeing people. This has been my one shot to see a lot of people.
I'm hugging you and like seeing, all kinds of people that I know online, but I only see them once a year at Costume College. that is something that will never, it doesn't really matter to me what Costume College as an organization does. I'm still going to go because it's my chance to see people, right? Like it is worth the $100 of registration fee or whatever it is for me to go see my friends.
Yeah.
And who I know will be there en masse, you know. And also everyone brings their like finest, right? Like their dress up finest. And so that's kind of fun to watch the parade of like,
I mean, I must be part of me is actually quite relieved because obviously I find the traveling with all the equipment I need quite stressful. I haven't once made it without something going wrong on the journey. But you know, all get there fine in the end. But I obviously must have been missing some of it today because I set one of my roughs today and I haven't done that since Costume College last year, because normally my prep for Costume College is getting all the roughs ready because that's what I normally teach a workshop on. So.
Wait, you teach in-person limited rough class?
I did for 2 years, yes.
Okay.
I didn't do it last year now I think about it. Because it involves carrying 20 roughs and 15 curling irons in a suitcase. And, you know, security look at you very strangely when you do that.
You know, you could just ship stuff to my house and I'll bring it down for you.
Well, I know that now.
Okay, well, now you know that.
So, yeah, I think, anyway, I have future plans for how I do the roughs teaching better. It was very fun the first year, though. It's like, why does this case? I ended up with, like, you know, the little security we've looked through your luggage tickets that you get? Mm-hmm. I think I had 5 of them in the bag.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I open it, like, what has she got in here?
I brought a bunch of corsetry supplies one time, and like I think I had 3 or 4 corsets in there, and then just like a lot of boning and stuff. And I had these from the country checked my bag, and they were like freaked out about my steel boning, and I was like,
I think whatever. It was the like 15 curling tongs that was my problem. You know, why does one woman with straight hair need these?
I'm checking out the comments here.
Yeah. So did you say what you wanted to say? Yeah, about Costume College. Yeah.
Yeah, meeting people. My friend Hannah is literally texting me right now to tell me that you can ship stuff to her also. She actually lives in LA.
Brilliant.
What makes you want to sew historical garments?
If we're talking initially what made me want to start sewing historical garments, I'd say going to Kentwell Hall, because that was, I went to look round at age 10 and eventually made it taking part age 12, and the only way I could do it was to make my own costume for it.
Yeah.
Help my mum make costume for all of our family to take part. But the dressing up was in there long before, so I suppose it was always historically inspired even then. So I suppose it's just to wear what I want to wear. That's what, yeah, in order to have the clothes I want to wear, even from like say age 9, and it was made out of curtains. Yeah.
Like Gone with the Wind.
Well, yeah, it was Elizabeth I in curtains. I mean, it was a look.
That's amazing. What makes you do historical? I mean, I do both things. I do historical and cosplay and whatever. Like I do mashups a lot, obviously. But I think it's that really, somebody made this comment to me, and I just read it before I started, so it was like stuck in my head. They're like, you don't actually seem all the time like you love sewing, and I'm like, oh no, I talk about that. I don't actually love sewing. Like sewing is a means to an end for me, right? Like I like the pretty dresses, and more importantly, I like the pictures. Like I want to hang out with my friends and have a good time in a dress that's awesome, and then go take that dress off and still hang out in my jeans and a t-shirt, and then also have amazing pictures. My end goal is the photo.
Okay, so mine's not. Mine is all about the sewing. I almost give up on I do regularly give up on the pictures side of it. I mean, there's so many things I have no record of whatsoever doing or making.
Also, I'm like,
all about the sewing for me.
I'm hyper goal oriented, so the end goal is the thing that I care about, and I don't really care what I have to do to get there. So yeah, I mean, there are days I love sewing. There are days I love sewing, but there are also days that I hate sewing. Like,
I have those too.
Yeah. So, and like, I mean, you can tell in my vlogs, like there are days that I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I hate this thing. And there are days that I'm like, yeah, I did it. But mostly I'm just trying to accomplish a goal, right? And my goal is the pretty dress. Like, yeah, for sure. What is your favorite sewing project you've ever made? Oh, by the way, anybody who wants to can put questions in the thing, and if I see them, I'll ask them.
I saw one ages ago about sewing machines that I will come back to if necessary.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you got an answer? I don't know.
My favorite sewing project I've ever made, probably Iron Man,
Yeah.
because that was like the first one that I felt so accomplished by. I really enjoyed the process of making Watson, and like the fact that Bernadette and I were doing it together as a squad, and we planned that before she blew up.
Mm.
And so it was kind of fun to like hang out with her while we were, in online, like while we were making them, and just watching her just go crazy. Like that was really fun. So that particular outfit has a near and dear place to me in my heart. So what's your sewing machine question?
I just saw somebody ask what machines do I use, and I thought I could say I use check the number because it's on the floor down here. I use a Bernina Domestic 1008, which is the really basic. It does forward, it does zigzag, it does straight stitch, and it goes on forever.
Is that your new industrial?
No, that's the one that I haven't made. That still hasn't made it upstairs yet. That's the industrial. And then the industrial that I've just bought is a Brother, and I'm not quite sure what number it is, but it's the basic Brother industrial. It just does straight stitch, and it will go through anything. And yeah, I mean, my Bernina is the less fancy version of yours. Yeah.
I have a Bernina 1130, which is the first Bernina that ever had a computer in it, I think. Yeah. And it was my grandmother's machine. And I remember her coming home when I was like 7 or 8 with it. And she's like, do not touch this or you die. Because it had a computer.
You can't do magnets, can you, with yours?
I can't do magnets on it, no, because it's that old of a computer. So anyway, when she taught me how to sew on it. So this has been my machine my entire life. And I've had my own machines and I still have them downstairs. But when my grandmother's eyesight went, she called me. It was a bad day for her, you could tell. Because she called me and she was like, can you come down here? And she lived in San Diego and I'm in Orange County. So that's an hour and a half drive. So it was not a small feat for her to be like, can you come down here? And I was like, okay. And I could get there and she's like, here. And she just hands it to me and then shuts the door.
Ooh.
Like you could tell, you could almost tell my grandfather told her to get rid of it.
Yeah. Because
she was never going to use it again. But she wanted me to have it. And so, my grandmother passed like 2 years ago now. And so that is my piece of my grandmother. Like she taught me. My grandmother was not a cuddly person, but she was very organized and she taught sewing at a college level and tailoring. And so that is her right there. And so she's with me all the time, which I love. So it doesn't really matter what bougie sewing machine I get. I'm always going to have that machine.
Yeah.
Also, that machine sews like butter and it is a tank. It's like 30 years old now. And
I mean, the Berninas that predate mine, but are the same style, like the 1008, the one that we use in a workroom that I work for quite a bit because it's my boss's machine anyway. That one, when you've got a hard job or something that just won't go through, her one will still do it. And mine, which is a relatively newer of the same model, that will be, it might go, not sure about that. But her one is like, no, I'll just power through. Yeah.
I have a Genovi downstairs that I made an SCA, like 6 layers of canvas tent with, and it was fine. That thing is a tank.
I didn't know you dabbled in the SCA as well.
So I only went to the SCA 2 times and I had a very bad experience both times. But my friend wanted to make a tent and I was like, yeah, I can help you do that. You can come over, we'll do it. So I helped her make a tent on that machine. And then I pitched the tent in my yard and camped in it for like 5 minutes. And went, this is sufficient. And then pitched her out of the house. As you do. Did you go to university or for something specific to become a costume maker?
Yes. I don't actually know this about you. I went to university to study costume interpretation, it was called. So I went to Wimbledon School of Art and I went there specifically. It was the only place I applied because it was the one, you can study costume for stage and screen in quite a few places in England as a degree course at art schools that have become universities. But all of them at the time that I went, they made you do design and making for the first year and then decide what you wanted to be, apart from Wimbledon, which from the very beginning it had a design course and an interpretation course.
Tennis?
Yes, by Wimbledon, right by Wimbledon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I never went to that bit the whole time I was there.
I've been there.
You've been there.
I watched the match there.
So I very deliberately applied for costume interpretation because I knew that would concentrate on making with no design element whatsoever. And that was the right decision for me. Interestingly, and I've noticed this from when we got to the third year and they had people from the industry come and talk to us. A lot of the people who studied costume interpretation go on to be the actual designers because they have learnt to sew, they have learnt to make a costume. They can talk to somebody else who sews and say, this is what I've drawn, this is what I want, here's my fabric, here it is. A lot of the people that do design didn't get taught that.
Yeah, okay. I was like, you're a designer.
So we were all sat there the 2 years and there was always a little bit of a rivalry. And there was someone standing up there saying, hello, I'm a costume designer for, I can't remember which industry she worked in. And everyone was like, oh, which course did you do? Did you do design? She went, no, I did interpretation. And you see these designers going, oh.
Yeah.
So I specifically did no design, pure making. But I'd already worked in the industry and as a costume maker for reenactors and museums before I did that. But,
I keep thinking about going back to school for it, but all the classes or all the degrees that I know of are either modern sewing and they're teaching you modern sewing stuff for working in the modern sewing industry, or their design. And I'm like, I don't actually want either of those. And it's really hard to find that other piece that's like, no, I actually want a degree in historical costume making or whatever. I know they probably do this, but
I don't think you can go anywhere and do a degree in historical costume making. I mean, you can obviously go to the School of Historical Dress and do fantastic classes on things, which is brilliant.
To answer the question for me, though, I have a degree in politics.
That's really useful at the moment. That means you can be really outraged by what's going on.
I, believe me, am. And I don't do anything having to do with politics. I am a web producer in the real world. So I work in the tech industry in Silicon Valley. If anyone's been to Apple's iPhone, iPad, iTunes help pages, some of that was me.
Excellent.
Excellent. All right, so someone said, any tips for someone who wants to join the CosTube universe? And boy, howdy, I have the same tip I have for everyone who wants to know how to start sewing. Just do it. That's my tip. Do the thing. Get your phone, get your camera, get your whatever, and start recording. It's really that simple. It's like the thing that I think is that everyone sits there overthinking about it and they're stalling. Just doing it. Like, I need to learn how. No, you learn by doing. Just do it. And I think that about sewing too. Like, don't wishy-wash about your sewing. Go get a pattern for like pajama pants and come home and just do the thing and try. And you are going to mess that up and it's going to be awful. And guess what? No one knows you're doing it. Put that in the trash when you're done and try again. So you just started costubing recently, like within the last year. So like, what are your tips? What tips did I give you? Just do it.
You gave me quite a lot. Number one, would you please hold your phone the other way round?
Oh yeah, she was doing it this way and I was like, go like this. That is my top tip, actually. Don't film like this, film like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't have a broken laptop when you start. Don't have poor internet. I had both of those. It is just try and accept that it will not be perfect, but when you get it what you want, you will feel such a tremendous achievement. And then you will go on and you will do more and it will be even better. I mean, I find my videos a bit of a joke, really, but I'm really proud that I learned how to make them. They're not what I intended to do, but they're what I've ended up with. So there we are.
So that's the thing. Like, from everyone, from like you to me to Bernadette, it is never exactly what you wanted. Like, just give up. Like, it's just like sewing. Stop being hung up on perfection. Like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough or whatever. Like, you're not going to get what you thought you were going to get, especially the first time you make something in any sports, right? Like, in anything you make. So just accept that you grow over time and you're going to constantly learn. People are like, oh God, editing fears. And I'm like, yeah, editing kind of, like, honestly, at the beginning, what I did was I filmed exactly what I wanted.
Sorry, that went all bubbly. What did you say?
When I started, I filmed everything one shot. And then I just cut off the beginning and the end and I posted it. So, like, I used to do makeup videos, and that's how I would film them. The whole thing was one shot, no editing. I just cut off the beginning and the end, and I posted that. So when you're, and like, even when I'm vlogging, that's kind of what I do. Like, I film the thing I want to film, and if I mess up, I don't even stop the camera. I just pause so that there's a hole, so I know where it is.
Yeah.
And then I film everything I want to say for that clip in one thing. And then I just cut off the beginning and the end and stick it into the thing. It's like, it's actually not that complicated. And like, once you edit 2 videos, you're like, oh, this is fine. Actually, it's not that hard. It's like technical.
I find it very difficult, but then, as we have learned, I am not a natural with the computer in general.
But you're trying to also do really complicated sometimes.
Yes, probably.
So, like, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
Just start. Just that's always my thing. It's just start. Just do the thing.
You can but try, and that's all you need to do.
Not sewing related, and this is a great question for us. Favorite book, series, or author? Go.
Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Closely followed by Laurie R. King's Mary Russell series.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And you? I think I know what yours would be, but I'm curious.
I mean, I have a Hogwarts tattoo, people.
Oh, like, actually, I was going towards Dresden. So
it is like my second favorite. Okay, so I'll give you my top 3. So it goes Harry Potter all the time, every day, whatever. I have a Hogwarts tattoo. It's not ever going to change. Dresden Files. That series is great. And the thing that's great about it is it gets better and better and better, and the world gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. In fact, he got nominated for a Hugo, one of those sci-fi fantasy writer awards for his 15th book in the series, and never before that, because they get better, right? Like, the stories get bigger and better and stronger. And it's going to be 20 books total. He just launched 16, and 17's coming out in September. And then after that, there's going to be a 3-part series that is like the final giant battle war thing, and then it's over. He is a wizard in Chicago now. It's urban fantasy. I love it. It's my favorite. And the next one is probably the Iron Druid Chronicles, which is it's an 8-book series.
I'm going to write that down because you mentioned that the other morning, and then I was Googling Grey Druid, so it's Iron Druid.
Yeah. And that's just fluff. It's fun. But I listened to it over and over again. It's a guy called Atticus. He's a 2,000-year-old druid. He knew Jesus, for example. And he has a dog that he can communicate with through a mental link because he's a druid, and he uses earth magic. And it's an 8-book series, and it talks about all kinds of gods and monsters and fun stuff. And it's just fluff, but it's really fun. So
excellent.
Yes, people are complaining about rolling. Yes, I agree with you 100%.
I can feel safe there. I've never liked any of that world, so I can be smug and safe over here.
My opinion is Harry Potter is ours, not hers anymore. Like, we have made it our own, and I'm sticking with that. Fight me in the comments. How long should an 1890s chemise be? As in, where should they fall?
Oh, that's really interesting. And I meant to find the link for this the other day. There is a video on YouTube. I will find the link and somehow put it out there. She doesn't undress to everything, but once she's taken her bodice and her petticoat and her... Sorry, I'm losing connection now.
Just start over.
Yeah, so there's an actual film on YouTube of a lady undressing in the 1890s, and her chemise was really long. She actually takes her corset off, but sits down in her chemise, and it was past her calves, far longer than I expected. Yeah, like almost grazing to her ankles. Whereas, but it's hard to tell because you also see the ladies with them definitely wearing their bloomers over their corsets, and they've got everything tucked in. So however long it is, they've got it tucked in. You can't see beyond their knees. So
I've seen patterns everywhere from mid-thigh down to ankle almost.
Like if you look in the Agnes Walker, which is the cutting book, they're quite long in there, aren't they? They're a sort of very large, voluminous garment.
How do you stop your hands from sewing, or how do you stop your hands from cramping when you're hand sewing?
I thought you'd be a good one to answer that because you actually...
I have that happen a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of don't.
That's my answer as well.
Yeah, like I just the more you hand sew, the less they cramp. So just keep hand sewing. But when they are cramping, stop. I do stretches where like also this one where you pull your hand. This is a great one. I spread out and I push against them while I'm pushing down. Like I make it really like kind of hard to do this. I do this a lot. And then ice baths, like honestly, that's my way, which is not a great answer, but it is an answer. What is something about each of you that no one would expect of you? We're both like, what? I don't know because I'm such an open book. Like I tell people everything basically. No, I don't know. God, that's a hard question. Do you have anything that I wouldn't expect of you? You're like a goth punk rocker at heart and you're just hiding behind.
Yeah, I still like to be the goth that I wanted to be at 17 and didn't have the nerve to be. She briefly got out for a few years in my 20s, but then she went away again.
But it's in there.
Yeah,
it's in there. You can tell like she still wants to come out.
Yeah.
Okay, how long did it take you to get anywhere successful, in quotes, successful with both sewing and TV? Casey wants scandal. I'm like, I have no scandal for you, Casey. Anything you ask me, I'm gonna do the answer to. So it's like there's no surprises here. Yeah. All right. Yeah. How long did it take you to get successful at either sewing or your job?
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, that's my answer too. Is like, what? I'm not. So
every time I have either sort of like got another job or changed slightly from where I was changed from theatre to film, I was like, excellent, right, where do we go? You know, now let's do this. But whenever I'm doing something, that's what I'm doing. So that's it until that's not really an answer, but
it's good enough. People are saying that my degree is the thing that people wouldn't expect of me.
That's a good answer.
British sources for resources. And by the way, this thing she's going to say here is the thing that she sends me a link to daily. And it's also an American source for British resources.
Oh, so this is McCulloch and Wallace, isn't it? Which I can't spell.
No.
But it's McCulloch and Wallace. It's on Poland Street in London. It's where you're going to buy fabric, thread, notions, trimmings, everything for corset making. It's not what it was, but it is really, really good, and it is a one-stop shop. And I've been going there since I was a student.
And they have esoteric little weird things that you would never think of until you actually need that thing, and then you're like, you know how like there's hooks and eyes? Well, there's also hooks and bars, and in America, those are actually really hard to find.
Oh yeah, because you can buy them by the massive gross weight from them if you want them, can't you? Yes.
It's crazy. Literally anything. I'm like, Constance, where do you get this really specific weight of blah blah blah? And she'll be like, oh, McCulloch and Wallace has options. Here's the page, and I'm like, should have known. I'm sorry. Thank you.
And then the other answer is, if it's fabric, is Whaley's of Bradford normally, isn't it? It's one or the other. It's Vena Carver if you really want your corsetry supplies. Yeah, so Vena Carver's the one that sells the synthetic whalebone for all the corset enthusiasts. So that's the good one. That's the good one for that. They're really good as well. They're only mail order, but they're really good. Whereas McCulloch and Wallace, they do mail order. You can go to the shop. You can go and pick up for them. I have, what else? No, that's the best. That's the best ones, really. There are lots of others, but I don't want to go on a complete diversion down to what you can buy in London.
We should do videos on that, like just a full video on here's all the places. I mean, that'd probably be really helpful for people. Weird things your cats do. Do they mew in different accents?
I just had one.
Yeah. What does she do that's weird?
Well, it's perfectly normal for her, but if you don't pay her enough attention, she goes and kills a baby rabbit and then eats it in front of you.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about that. My cats, what the weird thing that most of them do is they will sleep on their backs completely stretched out, and that's normal for a cat. We'll do it on,
of course.
And I can get up to 3 cats doing that at any given time, which is very funny. Do they mew in different accents? I've assigned my cats like different countries that they are from. And so, yeah. It's completely like based on some random feeling I got of them. Like I have a French cat and I have a Mexican cat and I have a Southeast Asian cat and yeah.
That's really specific. I like that. I mean, we did used to, when I was growing up, we had 5 cats. So they all did definitely have their own individual ways that they were and personalities. And the way they would speak if they were speaking to us. But now we just have Madam who, her language is deaf, I think, It's...
Funnily, my Southeast Asian cat is a Southeast Asian cat because she likes to eat Chinese food and Thai food. Like she loves it. And I'm just like, I've never seen a cat eat noodles and pad thai before. Like that's really weird.
Bombay mix that you get at Indian takeaways, the little spicy stuff. We did catch one of our cats eating that once off the table.
Yeah. I have my cat Dakota, the one that's sick, is actually called a Bombay. Like that's her breed. But funnily, Bombays are all black cats, which means they are inherently Egyptian, and they were mixed together in Kentucky.
Of course.
So I'm like, why did you call this a Bombay? Like, that's a weird name for that. Is there a UK equivalent of costume college?
No.
No, there isn't. There's no equivalent of costume college. And the funny thing that people don't realize about costume college is it's really not that big. It's only like 700 people that show up. Like I'm used to going to San Diego Comic-Con that's 1,000 people. So costume college is this cute little thing that can like exist in a few rooms in a hotel. Like it's not that huge, right? Like
it's what we make of it outside of it. It's the event that goes on. In a way, it's an event that goes on all year round because our whole thing is prepping for it, which for many years in my life, Kentwell was that, which was a 3-week-long event in the summer reenacting 16th century life. So my whole year revolved around that, and the year changed every year, so your costume had to change to a degree every year. So
I call it costuming New Year.
That is exactly what it is. So this is an interesting question, and they said not sure if this is okay or not, and yes, it is always okay, but LGBTQ acceptance in costuming or at costume college, love you both. So I can only speak for what I've seen myself and what me and my friends are into, which is hell yes acceptance. Costume college specifically, like I've seen all the flavors of people. All of them have been there and they are widely accepted. And in costuming in general, like costumers are, sorry, there are 422 people here who I am about to insult possibly, but we're a bunch of weirdos. Like we just are, but we are very, for the most part, accepting weirdos. Like, so, we will accept whatever, as far as I'm concerned and as far as I've ever seen anyone behave. Now,
the caveat to that is that we're still human beings, and so there's always bad apples who are giant jerks. But if I ever see that, it's gonna get taken down. So you're all good with me. Comments, questions, anything from you?
What was I going to say? Because I can't really say anything other than I completely agree with you, and that's how it should be, and it is. I was going to again talk about Kentwell because that's my big equivalent. Is that all right? I started going there when I was 12, and you could say 12 is when you start to grow up a little bit and realise that there is more to the world than what you've seen anyway. But that was my introduction to a world, and I mixed with people of all ages, all experiences, all abilities and disabilities. And yeah, it was very accepting, partly I think because it was a non-military reenactment. You know, so much reenactment is around a battle or an event, whereas Kentwell is completely domestic. So you've got a lot of women there anyway and a lot of families there, but actually on reflection, you know, growing up and looking back, it's like, yeah, it's where I met couples that were gay or lesbian or even trans, and it's just like, oh, but we just all took part. And that was where, so it's where I met some of the first people that you realised weren't the same as you, but also you were all there doing the same thing, and that was wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Does that make sense? And it's because you know, when you occasionally have to go on like diversity training for work, and people ask you when was the first time. Yeah, mine all relate to Kentwell, and I'm always thinking, oh, I don't want to explain that at work. No one else is going to understand it. Did I just have a bucket over my head until I was 12 and not notice anything? I don't know, because all of my awareness seems to come from also going there. Maybe it's because I also met my people when I went there. I finally was like, this is where I fit in.
I might take a minute because I think we might have a visitor. Let me see.
A real one or the cat?
There are 3 of them out there. 4.
Of course there are.
Sitting there staring at me. Do you guys want to come in? No? Scott's thinking about it. No, he's a giant chicken. Never mind then. They had their chance. Scott was banging on the door the entire time you were talking, and I was like, they all have a different way that they bang on the door. Like one of them like paws the door. One of them like sticks their paw under the door and grabs the door and shakes it. Alrighty. When life keeps you out of the sewing room, how do you satisfy your urge to make stuff, Constance? You go to work.
I'm never not in a sewing room. It might not be mine, it might be somebody else's. And yeah, I'm one of those people that when they go on, sorry, I do sew all the time. Yeah. I'm always, I don't know how else to make a living. Yeah, I am always sewing, and I will come in from work and I will pick up other sewing, or if I really can't face them or sewing, I will knit or embroider. But yeah, it is, if I didn't go to sleep, I would be doing it 24 hours a day, I think.
I have a job where I make stuff because I'm a web producer. So I make web pages for a living. I'm not doing that right now. I'm taking a year off. It's awesome. But for the most part, I go to work and I do a thing where I build web pages. And so I'm not the most creative person. I am technically capable, right? So my web production is not the same as web design. A designer gives you a design and then you take that design and build it, right? So it's basically the same thing as sewing, is taking a pattern and then building it. And so it's the technical aspect of it, or shall we say the tactical aspect of it, right? So that's what I do for a living. So I'm always making stuff, like even if I'm not making stuff, and like, you know, I helped make cocoa. So, and I was helping, even though I was doing was organizing stuff, I was making it, right? So, or I was making the program, I was making the things for the cause guide, or, you know, I'm always making stuff. It's just in different ways, right? And I mean, I think a lot of people forget to think about their job in that way, in a satisfying way. Like, you know, it sucks where I work, and I mean, it's all work, it sucks. And it's not something you want to be doing, but you are still making stuff. Like most of us make stuff. There are like tons of people who aren't, like they're just answering the phone or whatever, but like a lot of us actually make stuff in our jobs, right? We might be making Excel spreadsheets, but we are making things. So, you know, It's a good thing to keep in mind. Someone asked favorite desserts.
The important question.
Tangentially, second question, what is your favorite type of cake or pie? Pie is good too. Lots of dessert questions.
Yeah.
Different people.
I'm more cake than pie. But am I specific, or would I just say chocolate cake and be perfectly happy with that?
I feel like that's the type of cake.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dessert?
I don't know, but it's the time of year that I keep making cherry plum crumbles, because they're growing and I'm picking them at the moment. So at the moment, that with cream is my favorite dessert.
Yum. That sounds so good. I basically will do weird things for caramel. Like, you give me caramel. And Constance just sent me a whole jar of it. So
yeah, and I don't want anything in return. It's fine.
She doesn't need the weird.
I am going to try and send you the other make that my dad said was a better, even better apparently.
People are asking me if I like strawberry jam. Yes, I do.
But you don't like cream. I was quite horrified by this the other day when we talked about scones.
Hold up. I like cream like in cream format. I don't like clotted cream or Devonshire cream.
Oh, I was just talking double cream on my scone.
No, that's the same. Yeah.
That's.
I mean, like, I make my chai with half and half, and so there's giant chunks of cream in there. Yeah, I like that in there. But we were talking about scones. For people, obviously.
We said it could occupy 2 hours if necessary, didn't we?
I'm sitting there talking to the British lady about scones. We were discussing the cream or jam first problem, right? And so I was like, controversially on scones, I enjoy lemon curd. That is my jam.
Quite literally.
I will actually eat any kind of curd. I bought a whole bunch of different kinds of curds from Fortnum & Mason. And I mean, I got cranberry curd, I got kiwi curd, I got all kinds of curd. But yeah, cream, that kind of clotted cream or Devonshire or double cream leaves a film on my mouth, and I'm a texture eater and I hate that film, like violently. So yeah, no to the cream.
No to the cream.
What's your opinion on cream? You love it.
Yeah, I only have the merest hint of jam on top of my cream, which should be as big as the scone, preferably. Yeah, and
I want like a thick layer of lemon curd, or if I can get it.
I will, next time I make some lemon curd, I will try it on scones because it sounds good.
It's really good. Another thing that's really great is peanut butter and jelly.
I'm not sure about the jelly.
Okay, you should try it. It's really good.
Go on.
You can also do peanut butter, bananas, honey, apple slices.
And then it all falls off, I should think.
No. Top of scone.
Oh, you have to encase.
It's a sandwich.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I would like to know your opinion. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I would say no. Is this something you ask everyone?
No, it's like one of those controversial topics that people like have giant fights over for no reason.
Really?
So yeah, I find it absolutely hysterical to ask people this question. People are into this.
I'm going to be really and say, he's not my husband. Sorry, there's a comment that says my husband. He's not.
Yeah. Am I the only one?
I do that to everyone when people say that.
No, I like butter too. I like butter and then lemon curd. Like literally, I said this to her yesterday, and she was like, "Butter."
I mean, I would put butter on a cheese scone, which just to add some more fat in there. But
why historical costuming? What drew you to this hobby specifically?
Well, I'm now repeating myself, I'm afraid, but it's either dressing up or taking part at Kentwell Hall, and then. But it's just what I wanted from very young.
I don't have an actual preference for historical costuming. I make a costume for the event I'm going to, right? And if it's a historical event, I make the costume for that. And if it's not a historical event, I make a costume. So Yeah, like I don't actually have a preference for everyone thinks of me as a historical costumer because I have made historical costumes, but
it's the first thing I knew that you knew of you making was the Iron Man. So that sort of to me was the cosplay sci-fi side of it. So I didn't realize you crossed over into costume college because I knew you did that. Yeah, it's interesting.
So Iron Man is actually completely historically accurate. And like the center panel, I have another one that I take that one out because it's all actual functional buttons. I get that flat front, so it kind of looks like a stomacher. Yeah. And then I can take the mask off the hat and clip on another different kind of decoration to the hat. So it's just a bustle dress. You would never know it was Iron Man. So I made it so it could swap over. But yeah. I think that the reason that I made Iron Man was that I won a Kickstarter thing where I got a cosplay cover to take my picture at DragonCon.
Right.
And that's the picture of Iron Man that's like a lot of people have seen. And I was panicking because I didn't know what to make. Like I had no idea how to do it. And my friend was like, well, what do you want to make? And I'm like, I want like a bustle dress, but I also want it to be appropriate for DragonCon. And I just like had an idea and made that. So that's why I think of those. It's the thing that gives me the idea. So I'm always kind of doing both.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's other questions we want to ask for.
Let me have a look too.
Would you ever recreate one of your earliest garments to see how your skills have grown?
Oh yes, this is something I really want to do actually, and it's been on my list to do, well, probably since I made it the first time. This is the one where I've got a picture again rather than I did get a folder out with pictures on the computer. So this is a really poor photograph. It's a dress that's in Patterns of Fashion. So it's a dress that's in the Museum of London, I think. It's a blue and white striped bustle dress. I think it's very early. I think it's 1870. So it's right at the beginning. So it's or is it 1860? No, it must be 1870. And I made that on a college course that I did before I even went to university, actually. And it's just made out of black drill and it's trimmed with black silk that I dyed black silk. I would love to make that again completely properly because I learned a lot making it, but I've learned so much more since then. And there's so much that's wrong with that and going on. Like nobody told me that you could pad the inside of a bodice then. So I've got the gapey bits going, the sort of the dents going on here. And what else? I never finished the little gilet that fills in the neck.
Would you fix that dress or would you just remake it?
I would completely remake it. This one doesn't exist anymore. I did some filming with it a couple of times, so I was quite proud of it that I managed to earn some money using it. But ultimately, I was like, once I didn't think I was going to wear it anymore, and it looked a bit tatty. I was like, I took the bustle apart and took all the steel out of the bustle so I could use it again. I sort of stripped it basically of all the interesting, useful parts, and I was like, right, that's had its time. So I definitely want to make that again and do it properly. And it's made with a chain stitch machine, and I've got the little chain stitch machine, so I could actually do it and make it like that, which would be nice as well.
That's cool. That's awesome. I don't think so.
No? Move on?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a moveon.org kind of person. So I feel like I'm very proud of every costume I've ever made. Like they have flaws, they all have flaws. Every single costume has flaws, always. That's the thing. Even Iron Man costume have flaws. And like if I was going to make anything, I would have made Iron Man after it got destroyed. But it would be exactly the same. So it's not really a remake, right? But I kind of am not a living in the past person. I would literally so I also get rid of costumes. Like if I don't wear them, I give them away or whatever with them. Or I tear them apart and use the parts for other things and stuff. But I literally would wear any costume in my costume closet for sure, still anywhere. So I would just go make something new and better and cooler and whatever, bigger. But I don't know. I feel like it's good to be like have a moment in your costume and then let it be part of you and don't be ashamed of it, just do the thing. So
my answer is always, if you're not happy with something, is to put it away for 6 months and forget about it, and then when you get it out, it's just like it's a new thing. I do that with my knitting projects all the time because you're so intensely involved with them.
And
then you go, oh, I don't like it, it's not right, put it away, get it out in 6 months and go, oh yeah, I love it.
I've done that.
It's still not perfect, but you feel differently about it.
Or there's sometimes little tweaks you could make to it, and then it's great, All right, do people have questions that they want us to ask or want to ask us that we have not covered as of yet?
Great.
And what else do you have anything new or exciting that you want to?
I might have had 2 that came in via somewhere else, so they didn't make it onto here. Where did I put them?
While you're looking for that, I will scroll through the thing. People seem betrayed by my lack of love for the cream. Like this is
I was surprised, but everyone has things they do and don't like.
People are into this sandwich idea that I have. Does a soup not need to be cooked? Cereal soup. Wow. No, I don't think a soup needs to be cooked. No. Like gazpacho, is that cooked ever? No. Also, there's like honeydew melon soup, and that's not. Wow. We are having a discussion. Zoom like butter. Yeah, we got that one. I'm just scrolling through this thing. People are mind blown by lemon curd. That's awesome. Each cobbler. Yeah. Rhubarb people who are talking about this, I've never had rhubarb. Oh. I live in California. We don't have rhubarb very often. It's not a thing here. Did you find your questions?
I did. There was one on YouTube, which was, what are your favorite type of stays or corsets to make or wear, and why? I think to make and wear is probably the same. I really like Regency long stays.
Oh, okay.
I've yet to make a 19th century corset that I'm 100% happy with. So and I've made Regency stays that I'm really happy with. So and I really enjoyed making them and doing all the threading of the cording through.
Yeah. Oh, people were asking a lot about the cording when I was doing it, because they're like, oh, can't you just put the cord down and sew it? And I'm like, so you can if you're doing like a petticoat kind of situation where you're gonna have like the whole thing has ends. Once you get into situations where the cording does this, you have to thread it, because you couldn't get it tucked in there tight, and it's supposed to go all the way to the end. So no. So wearing, I think I love my new Regency short stays because they don't hurt at all. Corsets don't hurt actually, but they're not restrictive at all. Actually, mine are a little loose, which they're intentionally made that way so I can sit and eat and picnic. Like that's the point of this particular set of stays that I made. So those are mad comfortable. I have to thank Mara and Amy, who is actually British. She's one of the pineapples for suggesting the short stays to me, and I was like, oh yeah. So those are really comfortable. I like my joint corsets though. I love wearing them. They are super comfortable. I've worn them for 15 hours a day. Yes, they feel good when they come off. Like you can't argue that. But it's like any clothes coming off feels good. Like when you take your socks off, you're like, yeah, but I still love socks. Yeah. But yeah, my corsets are all super comfortable.
Put your pajamas, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like wearing Victorian corsets. They make you feel a certain kind of way, and I can't really describe that other than powerful is a good way, or like definitely protected. They are like one of those weighted blankets. Like they squish you, and so you're like, all right, everything's cool. And I'm not the person who needs that, but also it's still good. So I like them, which may be weird, but
no, that's perfectly reasonable.
Would I wear one every day? No. No.
I think I would like to build up to that, or at least wearing them more. I've yet to make one. I made a I I made one for my 1914 nurse's uniform that was really light. It had very lightweight boning and elastic gauze in it, and it needs remaking because it wasn't perfect. I need to do it again, but I'd be happy to wear that, I think, a lot, and that would do me era-wise for a lot of what I wear. But I need, but I don't just stick to one era, despite what it might look like. So I move around a bit. So I need about 4 to cover everything, I think.
So the thing is, like, would I wear a corset every day? No, but I also don't wear a bra every day. Like Saturday and Sunday, am I gonna wear a corset? No. Would I be fine wearing one to work every day? Yeah, probably. Like, I don't really have a problem with that. Like, I feel like it would definitely give me shape. I'm just a jeans and a t-shirt girl, so I like to be unbelievably comfortable, which means probably I would not want to, sit straight all day, which is what a corset would do.
I need that. I'm a terrible sloucher, so I think it would, if I switch to wearing one all the time, I will have a rough bit at trying to make myself sit up, because I have horrendous posture, but it will do good.
Yeah.
My one is, I'm then thinking, because I also like going running, and I'm thinking, I need to make myself some running clothes that are more in tune with how I look. And I was like, but do you want to do that in a corset? Does that mean going down the 19th century route, or do I stick to like purely 1920s, 1930s for the running clothes? I feel I could probably get away with that.
My 18th century stays are actually super comfortable too. Like, I could wear those all the time, no problem. Like, those are even more comfortable than Victorian corsets.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like, I don't mind the underwear at all. Like, I feel like all of it's really easy.
If you make what fits you and suits you, then there's no reason why it shouldn't.
Yeah. Someone asked what would be a good corset for a beginner. So I'm going to say something that will make Kathy Hay scream, because she hates this corset. I don't know if she hates it, but it's not very shapely, I think, is what she says. She doesn't care for it. But I made the Laughing Moon 100 pattern. It's called the Silverado.
It went all wobbly then. Sorry. So Laughing Moon, did you say?
Laughing Moon, I think it's 100. It's the Silverado corset. It's their straight Victorian corset. It comes with a version that has gussets and a version that doesn't. So if you need hip or bust shape, you get that out of that pattern. I didn't make that. I just made the straight one. It is the corset that I'm always wearing, with the red and white stripes.
Yep.
And everybody is like, that is such a cool corset. It's so pretty. And it actually gives me a lot more. So I don't squish, first of all. Like, I'm not squishy. So I don't squish down 6 inches. I squish down maybe 1 inch. But it gives me a very good shape. It was a very, very easy pattern for a beginner. It's only 5 panels. The boning isn't difficult. All of the instructions are wonderful. Laughing Moon patterns are wonderful for instructions. It will show you how to bust. It shows you how to do all the things. I can't recommend that pattern enough for a first timer. For me, that's what was my gateway drug, making corsets, and I find that pattern super easy, and it is the most comfortable pattern for me that I've ever made. If you're super busty or super hippie or both, you want to make the one with the gussets for sure.
Yeah,
because that'll give you more of a shape. But both patterns are in that pattern, and the instructions could not be better. So I would recommend that. Do you have any beginner corset patterns that you would recommend?
They're not quite the same as yours. I managed to get my skirt caught around the wheel of my chair, so I am now stuck in my chair.
Someone wants historical running clothes, by the way.
I was thinking I should do that as a video, but I have to get around to it. And I did see someone mentioned Ellen Abrahamson did a running in her stays video, which is absolutely.
Oh yeah, that was a great video. Which 18th century?
I'm going to go to Jill Salin's Corsets for recommendations, and
that's a great book.
This one is a really good basic one, because you can adapt it to having a busk down the front, even though it's got a fixed busk at the front, a wooden busk. You can make it with the opening busk at the front, and they were made in the era as well. And it's all corded, but you can replace that with boning, and it's a really good pattern actually that would suit all sizes. Admittedly, it only comes in one size, so you'd have to scale it around and play with it, but it comes up quite high at the back, so it's really good for sort of containing everything. You don't get too much overspill. It's not cupped, it's just shaped for the bust, and that's a really good basic. And then this also has in here, if you're not sticking purely to 19th century.
So let me interject with the reason I don't suggest books like that is because beginners don't know how to translate the pattern, right?
No, but I didn't when I started using
Yeah,
books
okay,
like that.
fair enough.
So,
Yeah. You might be a beginner at 2 things and learn 2 skills.
Yeah, I still, but also I'm still going to go on for the other one in this book, because she also has the very plain, it's not going to show up, but the very plain jumps that I've made in 2 different forms.
Oh, I want to pick those.
They're really good. I think you'd like them. And again, they're designed for a slightly bustier shape, so I had to scale it down a little bit. But and she does have 2 simple projects in the back of the book that she talks you through how to make a basic 18th century shape and how to make a basic 19th century shape. So it gives you a pattern shape, but not one for you. But it gives you instructions of like seam construction, boning.
Yeah.
It is good to give you an idea of an overall corset and stage shape. But no, it's not the same as buying a pattern, which is quite sensible.
Yeah. Those jumps are like an 18th century sports bra.
They really are, and they're really comfortable too. I like those.
Kat asked, what 18th century stays pattern did I use? I used the JP Ryan half bone stays. And I found that pattern. I made that pattern when I was not very good at corsetry at all, and it was super easy to follow. I had no problem with it. Someone is saying Truly Victorian 101. So Truly Victorian does have patterns also for corsetry. The one that I was suggesting was Laughing 100, so we have a bunch here.
Someone's asking what it is. It's Jill Salin's Corsets.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's a great book.
It is a good book.
Yeah. Someone is saying, oh, Rebecca, that was my first Victorian corset pattern as well. It wound up too big. Yeah, I was lucky that I made my first corset in a class. That was over like a weekend, like 2 days. And so I got fitted, and the person who fit me was the person who does the corsetry for the San Francisco Ballet. So that was awesome, because I learned how to fit, from her. And so I still can't do it on me very well, but I can sort of do it on other people. I did it on Morgan for her corset when we did our crazy whack live when I was at Morgan's house. Like, people are having lots of conversations about different corsets.
Excellent. That's the best way to share information. Ask other people what they do. What
is the other question people asked? You have said you had 2.
I think that was the 2 that haven't crossed over.
Oh, okay. How do you get into corset making? So you make a corset. Like, literally, that's it. It's like every answer I give, like, it's actually true. Like, I don't mean it to be snarky. It's really just true. Like, literally, you just try. Right? Like, that's how you get into anything, is you just try. So what I would say is get a pattern, pick any pattern you want. I would get a simple one to begin with, right? And then watch a whole bunch of videos on making corsets, because the YouTube community and just the world, there's dress diaries galore on how to make corsets. Foundations Revealed has a bunch of free stuff on how to make your first corset. There's a ton of information out there how to do it. So just read, watch, and then try. Like, don't read until, for 6 months, and then just go to the pattern and start. And when you get stuck, go watch a video on it, right? So, like, there's no reason to overthink it. Corsets are so actually easy. They are a series of straight lines. It is a tedious thing to do, and it takes a lot of time, and it is very precise, but it is not difficult. There's nothing complicated about it other than fitting yourself, which is complicated during COVID. But usually you can put it on you and you can see, oh, okay, and just like pinch out a bunch, and yeah, you're gonna make 3 mock-ups. So every corset channel or boning channel in your mock-ups, I would say masking tape some boning in, so that you at least get the like shape working while you're trying it on, and then make your next mock-up. And then when you get to the mock-up or the last one, then maybe sew in your boning channels and insert your boning. Thoughts? Do you completely disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that. I disagree that it's straight lines because it can be some whopper curves, but that's really good for practicing though as well. It will teach you so much about shaping and sewing those different shapes, and is it convex and concave and what goes with what. So
Yeah.
they are actually a brilliant thing to try because there is so much going on. And yeah, and you're not expecting to get it right first time. That's what mock-ups, that's what trying it on, that's what toiles are all about.
If you're picking your first pattern, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of curves. Like it's not that curvy, right?
No,
yeah. They may not be straight, but they will be parallel. They will always be parallel.
Mm.
So it's actually, yeah.
Earlier on, which I liked, but I think we'll know what both of us would say, which was, what's your favorite color combination to create with?
Oh yeah. I let's do each other. You're gonna go brown and cream.
Yeah. So you're gonna be red and black.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Spot
on. Let's see. Can I replace expensive boning with wire for my hoop skirt? Okay, so I'm going to say a thing that's very controversial to historical costumers. You can do whatever you want. It's your costume. Like literally do the thing. If you don't want to buy expensive boning, yeah, use crazy zip ties and stick them together and stick them. Nobody's going to look inside your boning channels. Do what you want. So the thing about boning for hoop skirts is it's not one wire. It's actually two wires and it's very stiff in between them. So it's a flat.
I have altered lots of theatre costumes in the past that have been made any which way to hell. And I've, taken that sort of boning out and had to file it down. It's hard work. If that's what you've got, that's what you've got. But
yeah,
I also think, it will have limited effects. So it will get you somewhere, and that's great. But I don't know, I'm a great one for the zip ties actually. When I made that corset that's on the front of Jill Salin's book, I made it completely boned with I made it twice completely boned with zip ties, and I really liked that. And it's meant to be corded, but I thought, I've got them, let's do it. I want to do it again with cord as well. But then again, that is also dealing with my shape, and I can different shapes need different requirements sometimes.
So here's my weird pro tip for hoop wire is I went to the fabric district and I bought one of those giant hoop skirt things that they sell. You can also get them on eBay or maybe Amazon, and they're made for like quinceañera dresses. There are quinceañera shops in like when you turn 15 and you're Hispanic, you have a giant coming out party. That's amazing.
Oh, I have seen them in the fabric district. I didn't know that's what it was. Yes.
And there's entire stores that cater to this party, right? And those parties are amazing, by the way. Like if you ever get invited, go, because the food is amazing. And people look crazy cool. Like they all dress up. It's wonderful. So anyway, I get one of those because they're like literally $5 to $10, and that has steel in it. Those hoops have steel in them, and it's not a piece of wire. It's a flat piece of steel that has height to it. And I strip that. That fabric is garbage that you're going to have because it's all polyester. So don't throw it away. Use it for filling or whatever you need to recycle your fabric. Do the right thing here. But take that wire and use that. Because you've done an entire hoop skirt of wire now for $5. And it's actually like fairly right. What I would say is like make sure the ends are sharp. And if they are sharp, just put some masking tape over that. Like that's fine. Nobody's going to look inside your boning channels. You can make hoops out of stuff from the hardware store. Absolutely. You can find any of the stuff at the hardware store too. I think crafting is 100% legal. I subscribe to Historically Adequate. So there are things that I have that are 100% historically accurate. But not always. Like it's not always the case.
And we don't know is often the answer as well.
You don't know. And also no one cares. And anyone who's actually going to care that you have a different kind of wire in your hoop skirt does not deserve to be your friend. Like don't care what their opinion is. That is the easiest solution to this problem. And I know that's easier said than done, but like kind of, like that whoever's judging you on that, mean girl, kick them out. I'm just seeing if there's anything in here that people want to talk about. Lots of stuff. Some people were asking about dress forms and cheap dress forms and stuff like that. So I'll give a minute. We're actually almost at the hour, so probably wrap up soon. But it's late where you are, huh?
I haven't turned into a pumpkin yet. We're all right.
Yeah. Tell me when you want to stop.
Okay.
Okay, so this dress form is a uniquely you. There are people, and I'm looking at you, Angela Clayton, who hate this dress form for a variety of reasons. It's honestly, see how it's not that shapely? I am not that shapely. So this is perfect for me. So you kind of got to get the thing for you. The point of the uniquely you is to get it and then you pad it out. You can kind of see some of the padding that's on mine down here, and then above my bust points are higher, so I have more padding on the top. So you pad it out a little bit in the form. It's a great one. But also there's a company called Bootstrap Patterns that makes custom to you patterns for you. Like enter in all your and if you picture which kind of scary sometimes, whoa, including all your weird like your belly and stuff like that. And then it gives you a pattern you print it out. You just make it. So what I wanted to say about that is that's a fantastic solution. It still costs you $100. So it's significantly like these are $200-$300. And then there's also those cheap ones that are $100. The cheap ones that like expand and contract, and you can't do. I would do bootstrap over the. You gotta remember, you gotta buy the pattern, you gotta buy the material, you gotta buy stuff, and you gotta stand, right? So that's still $100 worth of stuff. So if you want a really great pattern, that's exactly Bootstrap can do it for you. But you have to make the thing, and you still will spend $100. Do you have any thoughts on?
My answer is to get one of the polystyrene ones and then pad it up to your shape, and you can get them for about £10. I mean, not always, but you know, sometimes they're ex-display ones. If you really do want a budget stand, polystyrene, and then get wadding and build it up into the shape that you need. And then they're really good if you then put corsets on, because you've built the wadding up. It's got some squish and some movement. I really like those. I for years had the adjustable plastic ones and I broke them because obviously I put corsets on them and pulled them in. But yeah, I really wouldn't want to spend my time making something like the bootstrap or the ones. I'd rather start with the polystyrene and then build it up. And you can also cut them, you know, if you make a lot of bodices with straps, you can cut the shoulders down to the angle that you actually find you need, and then they fit so much better. And you can cut the boot off if you need to, and then pad out to the right shape. I'm a great one for the polystyrene ones, and you can sometimes buy like ex-display ones from shops and work with them quite well.
People are saying that my audio cut out.
It went very crackly through the description of the bootstrap. Yes.
Okay, so I'll do it again. So yeah. The bootstrap patterns are good. They are excellent, and they are exactly your shape. But you still need to know that you will spend like, oh, this is a super cheap way for me to do that.
Oh, it's gone again. Go try again.
And maybe it doesn't like me talking about bootstrap.
It doesn't like you talking about them. You're fine now.
Yeah, okay. So bootstrap patterns are really good. They will give you exactly your shape, but you have to make the thing. So estimating the cost of your time, and then also they do cost money because you need to buy the iron, you need to buy the material, and you need to have good material. But you need to have stuffing. You can totally use cabbage, but I don't have that much cabbage to fill an entire me. And then you have to buy a stand of some sort, or jerry rig a stand of some sort. So you will spend money on a bootstrap. Everybody thinks they're like basically free, and I'm like, no, you're still going to spend money on that. But Christine made one, and it's exactly her shape. So that's a viable option. This guy is meant to be, it's foam, so it's meant to be cut. Like I'm gonna actually cut off the arm nubs there because my shoulder width, like from here to here, is much shorter than hers. And I'm gonna cut off her boobs because my boobs are significantly higher than the ones that are there. Also, she's a giant butt and I'm flat. So I'm just gonna make her me at some point. That's why it's called the unique Leo. So when you wrap the polystyrene, what material do you use?
I use polyester wadding, which comes in a range of thicknesses, and I usually buy the thickest, but then you can shred it down to thinner, and then I build it up in layers, so you can do little circles to bigger circles to get sort of nice contours. You can wrap, and then I find it also melts if you get it really hot with the steam from a hot iron. Admittedly, I'm using a semi-industrial iron, so just a normal iron will probably just make it go all wrinkly and melty. But my iron, if I blast it with the steam, sort of melts and compresses the polyester wadding, and you get quite a solid finish. I find that's what I learned to do that in theatre, and that's what they do. If they're building to individual singers, that was where you really have got sometimes individual shapes going on. That was an excellent way of creating a sort of three-dimensional image. And I've got one here that's a really small standard polystyrene stand, and I just pad it up and down depending on who I need it to be.
Oh, you cut it off every time?
Yeah, I strip it down to nothing if I need to start completely again for someone who's very different, or I might build on to what I've got. I mean, at the moment it's padded up for someone else who, that if we were standing next to each other, you would think we were the same size, but strangely I put my clothes on it and it doesn't fit. So it's fine for an overall look, but it's not the same as how I'd have it for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I saw someone melting that stuff with a heat gun from a distance.
Yes, that would also work. I just use the iron because that's what I've got. Yes.
What's there? Yeah. I have like one of those industrial heat guns because I was doing Warbler for a while. This is the other thing about costuming is you get all sorts of weird tools. Things you never, especially cosplay, never thought you would get. So in America, wadding is batting, just so you all know. It's basically quilt batting.
Yes, and it's just the cheap ordinary one. It's not the special one that I use. I do go for the thickest because then you can slim it down to whatever you want, and you could buy a meter and make it go a long way, you know, a yard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I'll use whatever I've got to make something work as well. It's an old towel and then build on it if necessary, if you've got to go up to a much, you know, a very different size. Yeah.
I did want to ask you about your ball gown. How far are you on your own ball gown?
On my ball gown, I have cut out the tarlatan layer of the skirt and the Duchess satin layer of the skirt, but I haven't done anything with them, and I haven't cut out the top layer of fabric, which is this. This hasn't even been out of plastic until today.
What is that made out of?
It's metallic and silk organza.
It's actually metal.
Yeah.
Wow. That is ethereally radiant.
And I'm afraid it's going to strobe horribly on camera.
Oh yeah, anyone who uses a flash is doomed.
Yeah.
Hopefully can we have a post-flash society in which we do not use flash cameras anymore, and cameras are just sensitive enough to take a picture? That'd be nice. We are getting there.
I've cut ivory silk underbodice out, but then I've changed my mind about which corset I'm going to wear. So even though I cut it out and tried it on over one corset, I'm now thinking of making a completely different corset. So that's stuck in the flat form until I've made the new corset to then fit the ivory bodice on, and then we work up from there. So not very far.
So I have a bodice that I made a mock-up of, and that is it.
And you know what skirt pattern you're going to use?
No.
No? Oh, I thought you did. Ah.
No. I just said, oh, I want a bustle.
Fair enough.
I always just want a bustle. Like literally on my board, I have 400 bustle dresses as a line item because, yeah, I would like 400 bustle dresses. If I wear bustle dresses every day and just swan around, actually, no, I wear my captain. That thing is so comfortable. Flash photography is the devil. I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, do you feel like you have anything else you want to chat about?
I'm happy to answer any more questions if they're there, but I think I've run out of anything I prepared.
Yeah, same. We answered all the questions that came in via our stickers on Instagram.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I am probably still gonna panic at the last minute my dress. Like I'll be the only one that's like, oh God, we're actually going.
I have no idea what the next however many months till May is going to be like in my life. I'm going back to work. I don't know for how long for, because we don't know how, because everything's obviously moved, our schedules moved round.
Yeah.
Moved round. So I don't know where I'm going to be next May either. So I'll probably still be sewing on the way there too.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I hope we're back to a place. I'm also totally terrified because the United States is just like not paying attention to COVID for some reason.
Well,
so I feel like, what if they don't let me go? Like, what if everybody else gets to go and I have to stay here? Oh, that'd be so sad. I'll just I'll figure an iPad and you guys can just carry me around the ball.
Yeah.
And I'll wear my dress.
I feel a bit of an uncertainty, but I am going to make the ball gown, whatever. That doesn't. I've committed to that now. I've got the fabric. I've cut out a skirt. Yeah. I'm thinking of making the skirt a bit bigger now with the work I've been doing anyway. Maybe I think we could fit another panel in there. That would be nice.
So I did buy a lot of my fabric, right? I don't actually need 22 yards or whatever I bought. So I'm going to start using that black taffeta and hope that I have enough when I get to the actual ball gown, I think. Because I have like, I made this deal with my friend Peggy that we would try to September 1st.
Wait, I missed what you said. I got as far as Peggy.
Oh, so we're gonna try and be on the Hogwarts Express on September the 1st. So we're making historical Hogwarts, and she made this deal with me when she had like 2 days of sewing left on hers, and I was like, not even started. So of course I'm like, oh. So I think I'm gonna make a bustle dress that is historical Hogwarts. I'm gonna try and make the Hogwarts Express. So project announcement.
On a train.
I am inspired by a train because I haven't seen it done. And I, of course, love the colors red and black. So, so guess what? I found a red and black thing I could make. So I'm going to use that black silk taffeta, I think, in that costume, which I'm excited about.
Excellent.
Alrighty. So I guess we are wrapping up here.
I did ask a question twice, and I just want to go back because I think I saw it go past. It was something about, I think it was buying chemise fabric. There's going to be a delay now, isn't it? I don't know if they meant silk charmeuse or fabric for making a chemise.
Oh,
but I don't. Because of my, didn't catch it quick enough.
Is anyone making matching masks for their outfits? I am. Although silk taffeta masks is weird.
Find it in something nice.
Someone super chatted us. That's weird. Do you ever consider your work could be extant someday? Do you ever think about that?
I suppose I don't know what's going to happen to my own personal stuff. I suppose there's stuff in theatres that I've made that will stay there until it falls apart. I know there's something in Angels that I made that I didn't put a label in saying I made it, and it went back to them once the production was finished. And I was like, oh, I really should have put a label in that to say I made it.
It's weird because like it's an extant garment of an extant garment, you know?
Are we going to confuse people, or is it going to be really obvious? I remember working on a TV series a couple of years ago, and they had some really beautiful 1860s dresses in it, and they were costumes, they weren't real. But they were not new. They must have, I don't know when they were made, but the way the silk was deteriorating and falling apart was much more like how a real 19th century dress would deteriorate and fall apart. It was just a different quality of fabric. So even though I knew they weren't 19th century, there was something about the way they were deteriorating that was very historical. I know that sounds really silly.
No, I mean, that's what I actually think is our material sucks compared to actual extant garments. Yeah. And so they're just not going to be here to be extant.
Yeah. And it's really interesting when you see that different quality of fabric and how it falls apart. It does fall apart in a different way. It does disintegrate in a different way. And they were probably costumes that were maybe 30 or 40 years old.
Yeah.
And they were lasting better than some other ones that were newer made costumes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna wrap up. I need you to stay here so that we can wrap up without it actually dying before it ends. So I'm gonna say goodbye to everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming. It was a really fun chat. Thank you, Constance, for doing this with me.
Oh, thank you for having me and for letting me practice, because that was really good to see how all this works. I hope that's fun for you.
I feel like I had nerves before this, and now I actually feel much calmer about the rest of the week. So thank you. That was awesome.
I hope that was all right for everyone else as well.
Yeah, they seem to be into it, so that seems cool. All right, so Constance, stay, and then I will push the button. Okay, bye.
Sorry,
guys.
what you said.
Oh, stay on, and I'll push the button. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, I'm just